Jane Austen's fiction manuscripts was an attempt to bring together a scattered manuscript collection, scattered around the world, to unite these manuscripts digitally and to offer simple transcriptions and a simple search facility and some basic information about each of the manuscripts, and to make that available to as wide an audience as possible. Actually, it's been very successful. It reaches school children, it reaches the general reader, and it's used by academics. I think as well that kind of digital edition is quite a challenge for the editor, because normally editors have authority. We offer a transcription to the reader, and the reader is encouraged to believe that this is accurate. Once you have digital images side by side with transcriptions, the editor is on trial. And that can be a real challenge in digital editing, because you take big risks, I think, as an editor. Though interestingly, I know there are plenty of errors in that digital edition. How could there not be? But I'm interested that, although I get lots of correspondence about it, people are more overwhelmed by seeing images, say, of Jane Austen's manuscripts than they are concerned to examine the relationship of my transcriptions to those manuscripts and correct them, which of course I wish they would. But there's something seductive about digital editions, and it's not always critically seductive. You can represent much more digitally, and this is true of one's own transcription as well. The stakes get higher in the digital edition. I was aware as I was creating those transcriptions of each page that I was looking much closer at the page than I would have been looking if I was producing a print edition. So I was noticing the length of Jane Austen's dashes. She's a writer who has a very dashing style. She writes a few words, then she gives a dash, a few more words, gives a dash. I became aware of different lengths of the dashes, but also the rhythm of the writing and the use of the dash. It did make me realise that there was a kind of connection between the hand and the page. The tools, as it were, infect your thoughts. And quite clearly her writing tool was infecting the way Jane Austen worked too. And you could say the rhythm is partly to do with having to dip her quill pen that she was using into the ink every few words. But also there's a sense in which you could see the rhythm of her prose as she was thinking it out in her head. A few words, then a dash, which was a kind of way of keeping the pen in touch with the paper while she paused to think, and then a few more words. And you have the sense of the work actually coming out of the author. And it was only because of the possibility of such close transcription that the digital offered me, that I actually began to see that process, of that writing process, as closely as I did. Most of those manuscripts really lie dormant in libraries and archives. They were not published in Jane Austen's lifetime, those manuscripts, so they didn't have a print manifestation at the time. Very few scholars have actually engaged with them in the 200 years since her death. They were simply traded as commodities and gaining value each time they were traded, until they found their way, often at a huge price to the nation, into archives. So in that sense, they weren't in conversation with the past. On the other hand, popular editions were made from them. So printed texts were created from some of those manuscripts, and they were in circulation for a long time. But actually nobody really much had looked at them.